This I find to be a bonus video. I had to do this one because it's messing with our elections so bad, and I blame Donald Trump for this. Let the hate comments begin. Yes, I blame him. He sat there and settled with that college mess and has made it very clear. Oh, look. He said he's going to do it to focus on the country. Noble thing. Let's take advantage of it. Let's sue the heck out of him because he's going to settle just to get rid of us. Because here's what's going to happen. And this part, without any body language, is what logically will happen. If he settles with the charlatan and the prostitute, down the road there's going to be some scandal in the White House, and those impeachment hearings with another woman is going to come up. Well, he's got a reputation, and he's admitted to doing it before. There goes old Donald Trump, right out the White House door, impeachment, and possibly jail time with whatever they come up with. He cannot, if he wants to stay president and stay out of jail, he cannot settle with the charlatan and prostitute. I can't even say their names. This infuriates me to no end, the ignorance, because basically this lawsuit is to repair the reputation that they've destroyed themselves. And it'll be a double-edged sword, because if he fails to fight this or he loses, they'll take him down later, possibly within the year, before he does any real damage to their power structure. But anyways, we're not going to watch the first part where she gives this very long, read out response. And we're not doing Summer Zervos because she did a very short response. She didn't make any weird noises. You know, any of her normal stuff. She just read it. And she was a little shaky. We could say that she gave the same amount of fear at the very end of the last one. But we are going to sit there and go over the questions that the charlatan was asked and her answers to those. So let's get started.
I'll repeat the question. Essentially, please correct me if I'm not saying it accurately, is do we expect Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, to take responsibility?
Did you see that?
To take responsibility?
Take responsibility and our heads down. Take responsibility. No, they don't expect him to take responsibility. They're looking for a battle.
And what do we expect as a result of the filing of this lawsuit? Everyone has to take responsibility. This lawsuit. Everyone has to take responsibility for their actions.
Now, she is not, I don't like that at all. And I can't articulate what she's doing, but I watch her eyes lightly go up in here. And she's looking down the road for that responsibility. And I know I put a chart up that says, you know, what accesses the size of the brain, but read it, because it also says, I say, right there with it, this is just a reference. That is not a concrete. So when she referenced that area of her brain, it wasn't constructing a lie or anything of that nature. It was, or what does it say exactly? Construction of visual. She's not accessing particularly that. She's not constructing visual. What she's doing is what happens in a lawsuit. You start at point A and B happens, C happens, D happens, and then, as she puts it, everyone takes responsibility. They lose. She wins.
Whether the person is President-elect, President of the United States, or anyone else.
And she accessed a memory there on someone else. She's got someone else on the brain of who she's comparative to this individual. I would like to know who she's comparing him to and why this would be so easy to her.
And so we expect that
And more accessing memory.
his lawyers will do what they think is best for their client. I expect them to attempt to dismiss this case, avoid,
Now that sneaky grin.
delay this case, do whatever they think they need to do to represent Mr. Trump vigorously. Yeah, I would like to be mistaken and instead have the president-elect decide that he's going to do the right thing in reference to Ms. Zervos. As she indicated, if he will simply retract and acknowledge his conduct with Ms. Zervos, she will dismiss the lawsuit, not seeking any damages, nor will she seek attorney's fees. That's all that it will take.
And she smiles. That's all that it'll take. And she smiles. Sadly, if it's actually not written down that it will be retracted or anything of that nature, nothing in stone, even just approaching that matter, you're guilty. And she doesn't have to not do that. Well, he said this. Yeah, but you said on national TV that you would retract it. Well, that was I didn't really mean it. Yeah, that's the prostitute's role.
What impact did this have on his presidency?
Look at, oh my gosh, she can't keep that down. She is,
What impact will it have on his presidency is the question.
She's very uncomfortable with this. We have to switch hips. We have to adjust our seat. And she can't look up. She got to think about it.
That depends on what.
She's got a slight smile there, too.
That depends on
See it?
what his reaction is to the filing of this lawsuit. In the event that we are able to take his deposition under oath,
Oh, and that's what she wants. A deposition from Donald Trump. You get him on record for anything. Now, hear me out before the keyboard warriors get their panties in a bunch. Hear me out. When I first watched some of her Zervos, I'm just going to call her the prostitute. It's so much easier than saying her last name. She gave a recount of what happened. And as I was listening to that, other than the fact that I looked at her and said, there was no assault. And I remember specifically putting at the very end of that video, regretful consent is not assault. And I want you to think about what I just said for what he will have to say truthfully in a deposition, depending on what happened and what questions are asked.
of course, he will have the responsibility to testify truthfully. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I will have that expectation that he will testify truthfully. If he does not, there are always serious consequences in the legal system for those who do not testify truthfully under oath.
And there we go. We see the trap being formed, and it's all hinging on this deposition. He either fights it, and he's going to go through that process and a deposition and a trial if it comes to that, or he admits that he's a pussy grabber and assaults women, and he's going to face something in his presidency where some woman is going to go, oh, he grabbed me. And that is why I found to do this video today was very important for what we see coming down the road. We're in a rock and a hard place. We really are. And I just hope that the prostitutes' family and friends, so-called family and friends, that have spoken up about her being a liar before, are going to be strong enough to be our champions against this charlatan. I won't go too much into this one. This one is just a piece of news, not really analyzing everything that she's doing. Because we already know what she is, a charlatan. Well, let's look at a little bit more. Come on.
And my guess is there will be those in the political system who will be interested in his testimony.
You see that? Did you see that? And here we go right back into the A happens, B happens, and then those political people in the political system happens, and she smiles. She's accessing and smiling. And that is why we can say without a doubt that her body is telling us that they're going to use this against him. You think the wolves are out now. They'll be out in full force.
And whether or not he testifies truthfully under oath. You know, the lawsuit against then President Clinton had consequences for him.
And here we go. And she put her head up proudly for that. Like she owned it. And then now she's bringing it back down.
This lawsuit will have consequences potentially for then President Trump.
Oh, you can see that plan forming. See it forming.
And it's really up to him as to what those consequences will be, whether they will be positive or negative. That depends on him, not us.
Not us. Whenever you see this woman's grin, you should honestly sit there and think that she's got a knife in her hand. Because every time she does this grin, she has a knife in her hand. You need to wear a shield on your back. And check and make sure she doesn't dug like 5 more knives into your back. You know, it amazes me that people let this kind of individual just run loose in society. Run loose. You know, as ugly as they say the old days were, well, it never gets better. It just, the old days were never as good as the good days. It just wasn't as good as the old days. I'm sorry, but when I was a kid and I could play outside and I didn't have to worry about a lunatic neighbor getting away with whatever because he's mentally depressed or he's a social justice warrior, so it's politically incorrect not to castrate that individual, it was better in the old days. It's kind of hard to sit there and look back at the old days and goes, oh, you know what? It's so much better today. No, it is not. All right, we're giving this like 30 more seconds before I tell the charlatan to stick it somewhere.
Yes.
Ms. Zervos was a contestant on The Apprentice. Would there be an opportunity with this lawsuit to get at some of The Apprentice footage that was never shown on the air? That's obviously something people have been very interested in.
Nancy Dillon from the New York Daily News is asking, would we potentially have the opportunity, as we litigate this lawsuit against...
Now she's accessing that whole constructive thing of what comes after ABC.
then President Trump, to potentially subpoena the outtakes of Mr. Trump's recorded words on The Apprentice,
Oh my gosh, spit it out, lady.
given that Ms. Zervos was formerly a candidate on The Apprentice. The answer is, we would certainly seek any and all information and documents, recordings, etc., which may be relevant to the litigation of our lawsuit.
You know, what bothered me there is she had a smile. Right there.
Information and documents, recordings.
On recordings. Now, either she's doing this, and this is where we do the translation and we're kind of fuzzy on it, the recordings of the TV show that was just mentioned, or if they have something else. And let's listen and see if we can't figure out,
etc.
etc. And she smiled on etc. So it would seem that they've got access or they have something else.
Which may be relevant to the litigation of our lawsuit. So we'll have to see what the reaction of Mr. Trump's attorneys will be to that. I could speculate on what that will be, but on the other hand, so can you.
And so can you. I think I just threw up a little bit. Anyways, so they've got something, etc., that is apparently recordings, something. And it could be a witness, or maybe it's the infamous blue dress. Maybe they've got DNA samples. You never know. People will go to extremes to do some weird stuff to other people. Anyways, this was, in my opinion, very important to American politics, so we did a video on it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, leave a like. Well, you really ain't much to enjoy, I should say. Sorry about saying that one. If you liked it, leave a like. If you like the content, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.